While there were plenty of mech games released in the 90s to satisfy any Gundam fan on the PC, console gamers were largely left out. Sure, we got some fun side-scrollers that included some of the mecha genre elements, but rarely did they get any more sophisticated than just a two-dimensional side-scroller. All of that would change with the release of the PlayStation, a console that would give unparalleled access to developers, old and new, to create some very ambitious IPs that still exist to this day in one form or another. And within the pool of classics, a very underrated and niche game that would satisfy the mech fans on the home consoles and continues to this very day. It was titled Armoured Core. Simply put, this game is amazing. A freak event only caused when the planets align in the perfect order does such an astounding game ever come out. I'm really not exaggerating how truly excellent this game is. I can honestly tell you it's easily one of my favourite games on the system. It's a near perfect game on a console which, unfortunately, despite its success, hasn't aged very well. That's probably the biggest curse of early 3D games. Amazing feats then, but clunky and frustrating games now. Armoured Core, despite looking old and having a somewhat dated control scheme, is just as rewarding and enjoyably addictive as it was in 1997. The plot is a typical post-apocalyptic dystopia. After a war that left the world utterly ravaged, the lucky few who took refuge in the underground vaults, Fallout, were able to build civilization up under the earth, creating huge cities run by equally massive corporations that have absolute control over society, each vying for supremacy over each other. It is, literally, a new world order. And in the middle of this grim world are the Ravens, mercenaries that take various contracts from different companies for the big old paycheck. They fight for neither good nor evil, right or wrong. As long as they get paid for their services, they don't care. You're a newly enlisted Raven. You'll need all your wit and skills to make it through the increasingly dangerous and risky contracts to come out alive. And rich. Well, that's the idea. Anyway, now throw in some cheesy voice acting, and we're set. Being a mercenary and all means taking on various missions requested by differing fractions, most of which will involve defending a building or vehicle of some sort, searching for an item or a piece of equipment, or your most common task, destroying stuff. Vehicles, equipment, other enemies, all sorts of other crap. You also get some special missions thrown in, like attacking a city at night or combating a prototype mech, which you'll actually fight later on. You accomplish your objectives by using a fully customizable mech, or armored core as they're referred. In the simplest manner, you complete missions to gain money to buy more stuff for your AC. You get a lot of options to make your preferred machine. Tank treads, dual Gatling guns on both arms, rocket launchers, jetpacks, rifles, different heads, bigger generators, custom paint jobs. You can make some pretty impressive stuff with the time. But don't just think you'll be able to strap on whatever looks cool and hope to have a fun time. You need to be smart with what you slap on. Running fast is awesome, but you're going to have a lot less hit points and be unable to carry that much into combat than the bulkier and tougher legs. Good job creating a tank with a ton of firepower, but good luck moving around and not getting hit constantly. Even the weapons are balanced. Most guns use up ammunition, and that isn't free. So something expensive is going to be costly if you're going up against a whole ton of enemies in a single mission, and you're in a tough situation if you've completely run out of ammo on a long stretch of a level. So maybe you should buy something plentiful and cheap, but not very effective. Or hell, just buy a weapon that uses energy from your generator. It's free. but you better be willing to compensate for less energy to use while you're in combat or moving around, or risk overheating and being completely defenseless. All these features are bolstered by the additional expenses that will occur during a contract. Waste all your ammo or get busted up badly and you'll be charged for repairs and refitting your AC. So if you play sluggishly or get completely jumped, you might be charged more than the actual contract was worth. To me, this is genius of Armoured Core. There's no good or bad style to play. Want to go in Rambo? Then go ahead and make a machine that fulfills that dream. Want a machine that works very similar to that of an Eva from Evangelion? And that's completely possible. Or hey, just say screw it by making a really light mech with powerful long-range weapons. So many choices, it's stunning. From paint jobs, to naming, to even making your own insignia. It's all possible, and I love everything about it. Now the missions themselves aren't anything amazing in structure. Most of them are just some land masses to maybe a cityscape to an interior level. You start your mission, do whatever objectives, then it finishes. But it's how you approach it and what you're going to be up against that makes every contract feel very different. You'll fight some seriously tough opposition, generally on your own, but thankfully you have a very generous auto-aim that does a pretty good job at helping you clear out a stage. Now the indoor maps are not my favourite type of levels. They're usually really cramped and very maze-like. Even though you have a very helpful map, it's way too easy to get lost still. But mercifully, you have a decent camera that does its best to keep stuff in view. Most of the time. Now, if you could allow me to drone on a bit more, I'd have to say the mission briefings that you get before every mission are really cool, but not as helpful as they could have been. They rarely tell you the actual force of the enemies you face. This may seem trivial, but it's important to know what you'll be up against so you know what to bring in. Like here, I failed this mission because I didn't have enough ammo for the amount of other machines I was up against. So when I went through it again with a machine gun with plenty of ammo, I blitzed the level without a hitch. Also, those special missions I mentioned can be devilishly cool. An example is where I was paid to release a bioweapon within a facility, only then to get another contract by the facility to help contain it. I couldn't help but chuckle evilly while I made my fortune. There's also a few surprises along the way, such as suddenly being attacked by other ravens who will hide in contradiction to your own mission, resulting in some ultra hard and badass fights. Easily one of the best surprises was on the technical side. There might be explosions going off every moment while you're sliding and flying around, all of which is happening beautifully with barely a whisper of slowdown or frame rate messing up the gameplay, which is impressive considering how often it was on the PS1 with hectic games. The audio is really nice here. The different sound effects for the movement of your mecha depending on what equipment you've got on is pretty damn awesome, as is the sound of your weapons. The game also has an amazing draw distance that's only rivaled by Spyro on the system to my knowledge. It's nice to see what's ahead of you for a change. I do though have a few genuine gripes with the game. The controls don't implement the use of analog sticks. This makes moving a bit harder than what you would expect, but that doesn't mean it's impossible to get the hang of them. It just means platforming is a bit awkward. Wait, no, scratch that, it's pretty bad, since your actual camera is controlled by the bumpers, not actually by, well, the analog sticks. Get my drift? Also, it's hard to turn around sometimes, leading to a lot of hits on your part. To be perfectly frank, this game is largely easy. Yes, it's challenging at first with having a very limited selection of equipment, but the store system is very generous. See, normally, if you sell something, the buying price is more right if you want to get it back, okay? Well, here, the buying price is the same as the sell price, meaning that you can sell a weapon, buy another weapon for a specific mission, then sell it back for the same buying price and get your old equipment back. Kind of getting the idea? Well, as soon as you're able to afford anything, you will always be able to afford everything, if you get my idea. This can lead to missions becoming a complete pushover, since you can always afford the best stuff for the specific task. But without a single doubt, the last mission is absolute torture to go through. First, you fight a heap of powerful mechs who can rip you to pieces without a second thought. But that's easy compared to the hellstorm you have to go through in a few moments. You must scale a large room by jumping from cube to cube, which are somehow floating and have convenient turrets which can blow you off given the chance. You also have to deal with flying enemies that can rip through your health too. If you do somehow make it past all that crap, you also gotta fight an extremely unfair boss twice on the same life bar. That means if you fail once, you gotta do that all over again. The crappy jumping to the obnoxious enemies. It sucks. My only advice is to get a light build, but being able to carry some powerful equipment and trying to cheap out the boss. But even then, it's a frustrating affair. But other than that crappy mission, I loved everything else about the game. Each mission surprised me by throwing something new at me, always keeping me on my toes. It's easily one of the greatest mech games ever made, as well as being one of the best PS1 games released. I can proudly state that this amazing title is worthy for gamers new and old. Can't you just understand I love it?